All right. The future's coming. The future's coming fast, faster than we can predict to it or adapt to it. But there's been an upgrade. There's been a little field testing upgrade to the training. I'm talking cybernetics. I'm talking biometrics. Maybe not that crazy. I'm really just talking. I got an Apple Watch. I want to see what my sleep quality is like. Because honestly, I don't know. I know I sleep and I get good sleep and I feel pretty well rested. But who's to say that there aren't some patterns and some recognitions that I can get a little bit more knowledgeable on? But I guess we'll see. I'm not really even wearing a necklace kind of took me a little while to get used to. So if I don't really care for having something on my wrist all the time, I might have to say, Best Buy, this guy's getting returned. This thing's getting returned. No, I didn't open it. What are you talking about? No, but plan for today, chest, and I have reason to believe that this pump will be especially diabolical, especially voluminous and fucking every other cool descriptor under the sun for one reason, and that's because I pretty much just had a cheat day yesterday. I'm talking an extra 2,000 calories, like an extra 100 grams of fat, like 300 grams of carbs, of sweets, pretty much. I had some cinnamon toast crunch, some little frozen breakfast sandwiches, some just protein bars. I was fiending. I was fiending for it last night, and I said, you know what? Got to do it. Oh my goodness. But I am not completely derailed off my dieting goals. One day of a cheat day, you can kind of get around it. All you have to do is call it a refeed, and then it's not a cheat day. You just had a refeed day, which is actually legit. Because if you diet for long enough, like if you do 4 solid weeks of a good deficit, it is more than likely actually in your best interest to have one day of actually kind of a higher calorie intake. Essentially, what I ended up doing, a cheat day, because that'll kind of get your metabolism a little bit more ramped up. Because this is your body essentially wants to be in equilibrium at all times. So if you start limiting the amount of food that you're eating, what happens is your body basically goes into starvation mode. It goes into like, oh, this is a pretty poor crop this season mode. And it says, okay, I need to slow down all my functions so that I can run off of this low calorie intake and, not die. So if you eat 2,000 calories for long enough, eventually you're going to get to a point where you're no longer losing weight because your body is like, okay, I've now adapted myself. 2,000 calories is as many calories as I need every day to stay the same weight. So your rebuttal to that is either decrease the calorie limit even lower to 1,500, which then you're going to continue getting used to, and now your metabolism is getting crazy slow, or have a day where you kind of eat much higher than your baseline calories, which will kind of get your sort of system in gear to burning more calories. And when you go back to 2,000 or a little, maybe 1,900, you can't really get around the lowering of calories over time. You'll be in a fat burning state again. So the real problem arises when you're dieting down and you have a cheat day like that, where, I pretty much nearly ate 2 days worth of food in one day. That's not an initially bad situation, because what happens is you have a little bit of a buffer period between really setting yourself off course of fat burning, because there's that little interstitial change to your body which is called carb loading, which happens before gaining fat. So right now I'm a little bit more full of carbs because I had a lot yesterday, but in general, when you're dieting down consistently, you're basically, we've all heard the terms, right? You're flat, you're low on carbs, you're not like big and full, you're flat. So if you have one day where you kind of go overboard, you kind of lose it, man. You don't call your sponsor to help you and say like, dude, I'm freaking out, man. You don't have somebody to tell you just to do a few little 0-calorie jellos and move on with your day. You will initially just pretty much fill back up, right? All that the majority of all those extra calories of carbs, especially, you're just going to end up storing them in your muscle cells as muscle glycogen. So you're just a little bit bigger. You'll probably be a little stronger. The next day when you come do your workout, you're going to be a bit more pumped, right? That's what's going to happen on day one of a cheat day, which you could call a refeed. There are no 3-day refeeds, right? If you really go overboard calorie wise for even 2 days in a row, you can get back on track pretty well. Like, that's not going to be too rough on you. But if you get to the point where you're doing 3 days of like you've just been eating whatever the fuck you want, and it's a lot, like if your baseline is 2,500 calories, you're eating like 4,000 3 days in a row, you're totally starting to screw yourself, because now you've got to get back on track for even longer to make up for those excess calories that you just ate. You know, so what I'm saying there is, at least from my perspective, I try to just be totally strict with my diet, and then after long enough, because this is the only day in these last like 2.5 months where I did this. After long enough where I'm just totally losing my mind, or not losing my mind, but I was like irresponsible, and I have an extra calorie day, it doesn't totally derail the leanness progress. But if you completely go overboard day after day after day, 3 days plus, you got to reevaluate things for real. Because what happens is, if you diet like that, where you do 3 good days a week, like, okay, I had 1,800 calories today, nice. But then you have 3 days a week where you eat 4,000 calories, and you're like, oh, I was good the first 3 days, now I kind of lost it. You completely negated all the effort that you just put in those first 3 days. In just, I mean, you could do it in one. You know, some guys have a little bit of a weird dieting approach where they kind of do like carb cycling. So they essentially eat really strict, low calories all week, like really low. I'm talking sub 200 grams carbs, like just really low, like a steep deficit during the week. And then they give themselves one day on the weekend to just go completely fucking bananas, have as much food as they want. And that ends up working fine. Like, they don't lose a crazy amount of fat, or they don't gain a ton of fat either. They stay pretty lean because they're just kind of, eating as much food as they would normally eat on average for the week. But you can't do that every other day. 5 good days of dieting can be completely negated by one day of fucking, let's just be real, binge eating. So there's no getting around that. And that's where I love that anybody who's lost a serious amount of weight can really empathize with me when I say that, like, the amount of food that you're eating is the number one factor which is going to determine how you change the, just the build of your fucking body. Because there is no getting around it. There is no trick that is going to outweigh the power of how many calories you're eating every day and how many, calories you're burning as energy every day. But no more dieting talk about that. Plan for the lift, inclined bench, potentially inclined Smith machine, perhaps some incline hammer strength press. I'm not really sure. I kind of have to get into the gym and decide once I start. But it'll follow kind of a basic approach to my normal chest days. Heavy pressing of a few varieties, followed by some cable flies, some cable pressing, some pec decks. And then there's no question. It is absolutely out of the question. It may as well be the fourth law of physics that Sam is going to get a pump. So let's just get started. All right. Time is ticking. Time is ticking. I just got my last dieting grocery trip done for the day earlier. So no ramen, no ice cream, no ribeye steaks. No family-sized packs of like 30 individual Quaker Oats blueberry flavor. That's definitely my favorite. But what it did consist of was some low-carb tortillas, some we're gonna do a little traffic in here. Low-carb tortillas, fat-free cheese. I'm talking zero sugar barbecue sauce, some lean cuts of steak. I'm talking top round, None of this New York strip fancy pants. Because you gotta remember, I mean, I've been saying this a lot. It's like my go-to buzzword when I'm talking about dieting. But pretty much all foods have a kind of a range or a spectrum of a higher kind of full calorie version and a leaner kind of lower calorie diet friendly alternative. So if more often than not you can pick that alternative, you're going to set yourself up for having a better at least a much better chance of hitting your calorie goal for the day, or staying under your calorie goal for the day. I got one comment. Sam, is one cheat day a week okay if I'm trying to diet down? Yeah, probably fucking not, man. You know, it depends on the day. It depends on just how many calories you're eating, because it's all math. You know, let's say you're a guy who's yay big. You burn 2,500 calories a day. So that means if you eat 2,500 calories, probably 200 grams of protein, 80 of fat, however many of carbs, you stay the same weight. So if you were to eat 2,000 calories every day, then that would mean you got to pull that extra 500 from somewhere. You're going to burn that from your internal storage, right? Your body fat. So if you do that for 6 days straight, you just essentially put yourself 3,000 calories in the negative, which is a good thing. That means you burn 3,000 calories of energy from shit that's floating around inside your body. The majority of that is going to be from your fucking fat tissue, right? That's the whole point of the diet. But let's say, you know, it's Sunday night. You're telling yourself today is going to be your cheat day, and you've been eating 2,000 calories. Now you go kind of crazy. You have a fucking 5,000 calorie day. You know, you go fucking buck wild. You just ate 2,500 calories above your baseline. So you put yourself 2,500 calories upwards toward, you know, the green, essentially meaning you've got now a new 2,500 calories of excess energy in your system. So you just spent the whole week burning net 3,000, and you just undid that almost completely in one day with a big ass cheat day. You know, so that's where it just comes down to numbers. Because if you extend that and you do, like, you know, you have a big cheat day after 3 weeks, then that's not going to matter so much, because you just had 3 weeks of really good dieting, and it's harder to undo that in just one day. If you have one day of just kind of going crazy calorie wise, but you were consistent with your diet all month, honestly, that's probably a good thing. You know, an actual bodybuilding coach, they're going to program in refeed days as you diet down, just to kind of maintain your metabolism, you know, keep your appetite nice and, well, not to keep your appetite high, but to get your metabolism going, not slow it down too much. So, I mean, refeeds are fucking legit. But yeah, don't, that's, you know, given that you did like 3 weeks at least of a legit deficit, or you're not cheating and you're actually staying on your numbers. Don't, you know, a refeed, if you have a big refeed twice a week when you're dieting, I don't hate to break this to you, because I want you to know the truth. That's not a refeed. You're just eating in a weird way at that point. You're not bulking or cutting. You're just fucking going halfsies on your diet. And I guess I don't really bring that up too much. I probably should. There's the majority of people who are plateaued and they're not making any substantial progress, bulk wise or cut wise. They're not doing either. They're not trying to bulk up and eat a ton of calories. They're not trying to cut down either. They're just staying right in the middle ground. They're lifting, you know, they're keeping up, like whatever. You know, they could lock it in, but they're kind of just, you know, staying where they are. Not saying that's an extra good thing or an extra bad thing. But if you're going to at least start and put in the effort and energy to stay in a calorie deficit for a few days straight, or, I mean, I guess ideally for months straight, look, you really got to lock it in, man. You can't fucking get around it. There is no undo button if every second day of your diet you just go fucking crazy and you have like 6,000 calories. I mean, it just doesn't work like that, you know? And anybody that's really lost a substantial amount of fat, or I mean any amount of fat, I'm talking like 10 pounds, 5 pounds, whatever. If you've done that manually and you get the gist of how your calorie intake is going to affect it, then you know what I'm talking about. But no more diet talk. I feel like I'm just repeating myself for the last few drives. So plan for back day as I wait for the pre-workout to kick in is I'm not totally sure. I kind of have to wait to get into the gym to see. A lot of hammer strength machines at this gym, so I've kind of got my pick of the litter. I can just sort of get in there, and once I'm substantially warmed up, do pretty much whatever seems right. Be it a low, like really low lat biased hammer strength row, or more of a high to low underhanded pull down. I mean, there's all sorts of shit going on in there. And with back, I kind of have a pretty open approach to whatever the back workout looks like, but it usually does follow similar trends like all my workouts. More kind of heavier, brutish sets in the beginning. And then as my workload increases and progresses, I'll transition and do a few more kind of lighter squeezing sets toward the end. You know, so if I start the workout off with 3 sets of really heavy seated cable rows, then I sort of know, okay, I just hit my upper mid back, I got some lat activation too, and I did kind of heavier hard reps. I now want to kind of change up my approach and stimulate my back in a different way. So now I might do lighter wide grip pull downs and really just try to isolate my lats and do reps with more of a squeezing emphasis than just a workload kind of mechanical tension emphasis. Because those are the two, I mean, at the far ends of the spectrum, those are the two kinds of sets that anybody does. You know, if you make the weight heavy enough, then you have to do lower reps because you physically cannot do any more, which I like sets like that. You know, doing a weight where you can only do 10 reps and then you just can't move it anymore, as far as I'm concerned, that means you did a good set, you know, because you've pushed your targeted muscle to its legitimate limit. And I think it's better to be on that side of the exertion. Well, I don't want to say that I don't want to keep saying spectrum, but if you can either push a set with 0 intensity or 100, if 90 is where the sweet spot is, which I'm not inclined to believe 90 is, but even if that were the case, which is kind of the argument of the guys who say, like, you know, leave a few reps in the tank, even if that were the case, I still think pushing it to your absolute fucking limit is, I mean, that's way better than the alternative, you know? The guys in the gym who do just fluff sets, just going through the motions, not really pushing it, there's a reason that they're not the top dogs, you know? But, yeah, just kind of doing an even sort of mix, regardless of what machines and exercise order that ends up being. I'm pretty comfortable with it. And I can say that a little bit more, confidently, because I've done, I've done like 2 back days a week for the past like almost 6 years. Actually, yeah, I think I'm coming up on the 6-year mark. I think a few months and then I'll be a 6-year lifter. So 2 back days a week, basically. 6 years, 300 days. Yeah, I've done at least 500 back workouts. So that's 500 back pumps. So I pretty much have a solid grasp of the movements that are going to give me a good feeling of satisfaction after I'm done with my lifts. So if that's not you, if you don't have a crazy amount of training experience under your belt, then man, maybe just have one of your buddies walk you through his back day, or just look up online fucking anybody's back day. We've got years upon years of archived footage of every fitness influencer to Mr. Olympian bodybuilder and the way that they trained. And these guys, regardless of their like subjective, or not even subjective, but regardless of their like level of knowledge or training information, or like if they're, basing their training off of scientific third-party tested studies, or if it's just bro science from back in the day. Across the board, everybody basically has one desire, and that's muscular results. So, regardless of necessarily the way that you can explain the logic of the way that these guys do things, they're still basically trying their best from their own perspective to make gains. And putting yourself in someone else's shoes like that and kind of letting them take the reins of your training for even just a workout, that's a fucking badass learning experience, Every time I get to lift with anybody fucking, way ahead of me, I back off. I want to listen to the way that they train, at least get a grasp of what they're thinking. I may not apply everything that they do, but that's because it just might not fucking sound right in my mind, But the last thing I want to do is just develop a complete closed mind to my training. Even right now, I'm training pretty differently. Actually, I'm training extremely differently than when I was like 5 years ago when I started. And honestly, a lot of the ways that I do sets now, that's even different from a year ago. And I don't think that based on my current knowledge level, I feel like I'm training pretty well. But I'm sure that even in a year, I'm going to be doing things a bit differently too. And the nature of that change, I would hope, is going to be approaching a better and better workout routine, diet, sleep, training, everything all together, so I can keep making consistent muscular hypertrophy. But enough of this little speech. Regardless of how smart you think you're training, the guy who's training harder than you will probably get better results. So let's play some fucking metal music while I keep driving over to the gym, and then we can get started on whatever that first music ends up being. Or first set ends up being, what am I saying? Alright. We know the deal. There's no need for a debrief. There's no need for this mission's details to be too drawn out and complicated, because we know what the primary objective is. I guess it's twofold. Have a good workout, know that I pushed myself hard, but in doing so, finish the workout with a good pump. Now, is that... Yeah, I'd go as far as to say the pump is a pretty solid way to judge not just your workout. I think that gets a little bit too short-sighted, but the pump is a perfect way to judge kind of your overall preparedness as well as your workout quality. Because if I don't get any fucking sleep, odds are the pump is going to suffer. If I don't drink enough fluids, odds are the pump is going to suffer. If I don't have enough food in my system, at least for that given day, right, even if I'm dieting down, I still want to have some meals, the pump is going to suffer. If I didn't get enough sleep, you get what I'm saying? So it's not so much that you should be chasing better pumps. It's that you should be setting yourself up in your day outside of the gym to have better pumps more consistently. And honestly, that's not a fucking terrible way to go about it if that's how you want to kind of simplify your approach. Because then like, okay, I gotta get some sleep, I need more than my 5 hours. Or, okay, yeah, I should probably drink more than just one fucking, or 2 Diet Cokes. That's probably not enough to get you reasonably hydrated. Whereas, if you were to have like a fucking gallon jug with you at all times, slap some electrolyte mix in there as well, which honestly I think is the real important part of that statement, you're gonna feel fucking sweet. Again, I was just talking to one of my buddies at the gym. He goes, "Oh, dude, I got a fucking splitting headache." I asked him, I feel kind of bad for calling him out directly because he knows I'm talking about him. But I was like, "What's your fluid intake like, man? How many electrolytes are you getting today?" And he points at like a half-drink bottle of Gatorade Zero, and he's like, "There it is." Dude, that is nothing. That is nothing. Honestly, something like a Gatorade Zero is kind of a sweet treat, but that's not something that I would immediately start sipping on if I was trying to get like maximized hydration per se. That's where a lot of electrolyte sort of packets or like tub kind of mixes are a little bit more up my alley because it's got fucking every well, every electrolyte plus all sorts of extra vitamins and stuff in there, just everything. So I'll slam a couple of those per day. And what I was going to say was zero headaches, zero fucking headaches, right? There is no headache medicine. There is no yoga therapy. There's no anything that's going to be more effective at preventing your fucking frequent recurring headaches than being sufficiently hydrated. Because that's the main fucking cause. Apart from like random other kind of medical cases. I wasn't a med student. But the real kind of issue that happens, which makes your head fucking hurt, and when you're working out, this just fucking exacerbates the problem, is when the pressure, the fluid pressure, because your whole body's full of water, between your brain and the rest of your body gets out of whack. Because you can basically look at it as though your brain is wrapped around a big ass rubber balloon. It's a blood-brain membrane. I'm saying the word brain a lot, but just follow me. So mainly your body only lets water and some other fancy stuff in your brain. They don't want everything that's floating around you to get in there because it's kind of a sensitive part of your body. But in that process, it's not like super quick. So if your brain gets overhydrated per se, it basically swells up a little bit and it's pushing on that outside membrane. It's going to give you a headache. And if it's a little bit too dry, right, it's kind of down a little bit fluids and it shrinks down, it's kind of pulling on you. You want your fucking brain to be the same size at all times in there. And by getting a steady stream of electrolytes, having a good sodium intake, coupled with a lot of fluids, that is going to happen. And I'm not really concerned with high sodium intake because I'm still drinking like upwards of a gallon of fluids per day. Be it from like a diet whatever or like artificial sweetened stuff. That's still about a gallon-ish of just straight up water. And I don't know where you guys get off by saying shit like a diet soda is going to dehydrate you. What? I mean, yeah, it's not packed full of electrolytes like something like a little electrolyte mix would have, but just drinking a diet soda does not fucking dehydrate you. I don't know where that got propagated. If I were to be subject to only drink diet soda every day instead of water, which I probably wouldn't mind too much, I do like it, but I'm sure I'd get tired of it if that's all I could drink. I'm not suddenly going to die of dehydration. You know what I'm saying? So don't, there's all sorts of little random fucking tidbits of just goofy ass information about dieting and training. And that's where you've got to keep your head on a swivel and be ready to say like, oh, okay, that's some good information right there. Okay, that's stupid. You only said that because some guy in your gym 30 years ago said that, and you thought he was big, so you believed him. So, and that goes for me too. I'm not exempt. I try my best to say some shit that's going to relate to all lifters, any level. If you go hard, eat enough food, get your sleep, probably going to get results. I can say that pretty openly. I don't think that's a controversial statement in any way. But even when I say some random shit and you're like, Sam, I don't know about that. Don't just take it to heart then, Don't just take that as fact. Right? I'm not spewing the gospel here. I'm just giving you my take on what I know about fucking lifting weights and getting pumped up to hell. But playing for arms, you know the deal. Push downs, all sorts of other curls and stuff. Nothing too complicated. But I'll kind of discuss my thought process as we go on. Because I think sometimes I kind of just do sets without actually really explaining them. Like I'll jump from straight bar pushdowns to the rope, and I'll kind of just say, the rope feels good, but there is a little bit more to that. So I'm going to try to get a little bit more open with you when I talk about what I'm doing and why. I mean, that's the whole point, right? But let's just get in there. Back again. Can you believe it? Another day of a Sam workout. Guess what? Out of all things, I do not think these days are particularly numbered, in the sense that there really is not a question that I'm going to work out today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the day after that and the fucking 100 days after that and beyond. And part of that is just the fact that I love working out and it's fun for me. But also it's kind of a pattern thing, you know? If you wake up every day, you go about your day like normal, and then you come home, the odds that you're going to do that again, they're incredibly high. You're fucking gonna. So that's where, to someone who's not inclined to do a lot of hard training, for someone like me, weightlifting, but it could be anything, you know, whatever your shit is, to go from basically no activity like that to a day of really solid fucking badass exertion, it can feel like a lot. So you have to kind of train your mind in a way, and definitely learn to police your own thoughts, to kind of, I mean, I'm not lying, I'm not exaggerating when I say you got to kind of toughen up your own fucking mind, you know? Because if you're the type of guy where when you think about a 2-hour long workout, or if one of your buddies really pushes himself on legs and he's going to take you with him for a leg day, if you're the type of guy who sees that and he's like seriously intimidated, he's like, oh man, that's going to be hard. Or not even intimidated, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're the type of guy to be like, I don't want to do that. Oh, it's going to be hard. Oh my goodness. Even if you still do it, to have already had that mindset and that mentality and that sort of, those thoughts really pop up in your head and you keep replaying them the whole time, you're just not going to have a good fucking workout, you know? Because you don't stand behind what you're doing. When I'm in the gym and I see guys, or I'm talking to whoever, it's not super often, but there are a few guys that I've seen in my gyms before where they have absolutely nothing to talk about except for complaints. Oh, dude, I'm fucking dying today, man. I'm so fucking tired. Verbatim, he's going, yeah, I don't want to be here right now. So, then why are you here, right? If you're already in the gym, you should try your damnedest to make yourself as excited about it as possible. Because, for one thing, that's going to give you a better workout on that day. And that's setting yourself up to actually be able to keep doing it day after day after day and really get the progress that you want. So, and that comes with time. That comes with time, for sure. You know, especially, not so much, honestly, pretty much never now. But if I've got a really long leg day and I'm like particularly tired, maybe a little bit sick, I might get a little bit of a thought developing like, oh crap, I've got a lot of working out left, fuck. But do not feed into that kind of thought. You know, if that sort of thought pops into your mind, if you know you've got 3 sets of squats left, or you've got some leg extensions left, or RDLs, or hamstring curls, or bench, even if that thought arises, like, oh crap, this is going to be hard, squash that immediately and say, all right, this is going to be hard, come on. You know, amp yourself up in a way. And it's easier said than done. You know, it's easier said than done. And there is a learning curve and kind of a period of time where you don't really get to think like that. You know, to go from 0 grinding to fucking 100% pedal to the metal grinding, there's a period of time where it's just kind of, it's going to be a bit uncomfortable for a while. No matter how hyped up you can get, it is hard because it's harder than what you're used to doing. But the longer that you can work out consistently, the easier that it's going to become. You know, I'm talking that last episode of BoJack Horseman with that monkey. I forget the kind of bonobo. Close enough. But he's like, oh, it gets easier. Right? The more you do it, you get the idea, right? And that cannot be truer. You know. Just as a little bit of an example, I meant to talk about this last leg day, the video yesterday, where I'm doing like fucking, you know, over 500 pound Smith machine squats. It's kind of become second nature to me at this point. Like when I first started really getting into heavy squats, just as one specific example, I would be nervous for days before. If I was going to put upwards of like 500 pounds or more on my back and I had to squat it for reps, I'd be thinking about it days before because it would make me so anxious. I'd be sitting there in front of the fucking rack I'm already warmed up. I'm getting ready to hit this set. You know, I'm listening to whatever music I'm listening to, and I'm sitting there, like, in the 20 seconds before I really stood up to hit the set, my heart rate would like fucking double. But after having done it for so long now, I kind of almost want to chase that excitement because I don't. It's a little bit harder to get for me because I know that I'm capable of doing it, and all I have to do is exert myself. So the longer that you do it, the easier that it becomes. And eventually, I think that's a very good end state. Honestly, that might be the end state to any endeavor to make serious progress in. You want to be someone who can practice without striving. And what I mean by that is you want to be the person who can work hard and make it look easy. Right? The guy who can come in every day and work hard, he makes it look easy because he's not struggling. He's not complaining. He's just pushing it because he knows he wants to, you know? So that's kind of what I mean, honestly, that's something I've kind of strived to attain a little bit because the easier that it is for you to do crazy hard sets as hard as you can, it's just going to make your workouts more enjoyable. But I can't stress enough that that is something that's going to come with time. So if you still feel like you're in the early bird stages of your working out, and you can apply this to whatever. I'm a fucking, gym nut, so that's pretty much all I talk about in these. But in those first few months that you're doing it, yeah, it might be a little tricky, man. It's going to take you a while. You don't necessarily have the results that you're working towards yet to hype you up. But in the process of going through these early days, these these ground floor bricklaying days, you're setting yourself up for some serious success in the future, right? No fucking skyscraper was built on sand, right? It's all about that solid foundation early on. But enough random generic motivational quotes and analogies. Let's actually lift some fucking steel. Plan for chest is pressing as heavy as I feel comfortable with, followed by some fly-based movements, some cable pressing-based movements, potentially a little bit of chest accessory work with the dumbbells, maybe even a little bit of dips. It's been a long time since I've thrown some dips in. I guess let's just find out. Why try to spoil it when we can actually see what the workout's going to be like in about 3 seconds? So let's actually we'll cut to the warm-up. I get a bad habit of skipping that. So let's get over there. All right. I've got a question for you. I have got a question for you. What category do you fall under? Are you a push-pull legs fanatic? Are you an upper-lower, demon sort of lifter? Or are you the type of guy who likes a workout split that has a dedicated arm day? Because if you are, I sympathize with you. I know what you are talking about. I love an arm day. And it's half subjective. It's half subjective, of course. But I don't know, it just kind of makes sense for me. In terms of the workout, a split, it kind of just sort of goes hand in hand, Like when I do my legs, I train both sides of my legs together, hamstrings and quads. It would make sense if I want to do my arms, I'm going to hit my triceps and my biceps at the same time too. But, I also see the argument of adding, doing triceps after chest in a really like a more of a conventional push day kind of way. And back end biceps, I'm not so keen on. It's like by the time I finished a good back workout, my biceps have gotten a reasonable amount of activation that working them anymore, I feel like it's more like just fatiguing them, not really stimulating them in like a muscle growth inducing kind of way. So if you love back and bis, then screw me from what I'm saying. Do that. Do what you know works. Do what feels the best and lets you go the hardest. But for me, I love an arm day. Triceps first, followed by biceps, sometimes going back and forth. And half the reason there is I just like having my arms fully pumped. I'm really excited for, well, in the next few weeks, because I'm going to gain an instant 10 pounds of water and carbs, all intramuscular. So until then, I don't mind doing an arm day where I do like a set of triceps and then a set of biceps and then back and forth, so that my arms are completely pumped at the end of the workout. But when I'm fully bulked up and when I kind of really start pushing down the food, I do that superset kind of arm day much less frequently, and for good reason. My arms get too pumped to the point where, like, if my triceps are fully pumped and my biceps are pumped at the same time, the pumps almost interfere with each other. Like, if my biceps are really pumped up, if I try to do a set for like straight bar pushdowns, my forearm literally runs into everything going on up here, and it takes the tension off my triceps. So if you get big enough, that's something that you are going to have to think about. And I guess you could kind of say it helps your bicep training if you have a tricep pump, because then you have a little bit of extra resistance at the top of the curl, because your tricep is trying to pull your arm straight. But either way, cannot beat the basics. You know, what's the best way to build your arms? What's the best way to build your triceps? To build the peak of your biceps? Probably intense training is the best way. So be that from heavy alternating dumbbell curls, heavy cable curls, machine curls, fucking preacher curls, really any kind of curl. You're probably fucking fine loading it up as much weight as you can do for safe reps. We've all seen the videos of guys do preacher curls with a straight bar where they extend their arms all the way out, and then there's a little kind of freak factor going on right there, and not in a good way. So I guess there are some red flags that pop up in bicep training where I say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So you're never going to catch me do preacher curls and extend my arms completely straight at the bottom. I mean, talk about transferring every fucking pound possible you can directly into your tendons. Goodness. But it's not too complicated, right? Because just think about it from a muscular perspective. Like, this is one thing which I think a lot of people could benefit from getting a better understanding of, is like, when you're doing a specific movement or you've got a specific lift, it's leg day, you're about to start a bicep workout or a tricep workout, don't just think about doing a curl per se. That is what you're doing, but don't just think about it like that, because that's not really what you're doing. You know, when you pick up the pair of 40s, you walk in front of the mirror, you can see your forearm veins going fucking crazy, and you start curling. This isn't what you're doing. You know, you're not magically exerting force through your palm, right? You're pulling on your fucking forearm through kind of this part way up in here where your bicep connects to it. So if you can kind of develop a little bit of a kind of, fucking mind muscle connection to feel that sort of squeeze and to feel your biceps doing the work and not just like going through the motion of a curl, then, I mean, it may not change to an insane degree, but I think more than likely you're gonna be able to have better fucking pumps. And the same thing can go for anything, be it chest, back, legs, whatever. When I'm on that last leg day, when I was on that pendulum squat, I wasn't just thinking, okay, I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna push. In a way, I was kind of almost pretending that I was doing like a leg extension, where I would try to straighten my legs at the knee so I could get more quad activation. Because if you just think about the basic framework of whatever movement you're doing, you kind of lose touch with the main muscle you're trying to work. This was definitely a eureka moment for me. I was in the home gym. This is COVID years. I was really locked in. Not that I'm not now, but I think COVID definitely helped making the training a bit more intense because I don't have to focus on anything else. But I'm sitting there doing incline barbell bench, like nothing, like whatever, normal chest day. And then all of a sudden, whoa, I can feel my chest actually doing the work and not just you know, kind of envisioning my hands pushing the bar. And if you can kind of, and the more you work out, if you're actually trying, this is just going to come to you like nothing. I mean, eventually it'll kind of be like second nature. Like I'm, like just sitting here, I can kind of like get my lats fucking tightened up and my lower back and my hamstrings, my quads and everything. Like you get a pretty good sort of, well, just a good sense of what to flex, how to flex it, and how to do that directly. You know, I'm talking like popping your pecs sort of thing. It doesn't just have a show-offy effect of being kind of cool. That lets you fucking make your sets more important. Or more, well, not more important, but more effective. Because if you can do a set of dumbbell curls, or instead of just imagining, like, okay, I'm trying to curl this pound, this 40 as hard as possible, you can actually kind of envision the fact that your bicep is what's pulling the weight up, then I'm going to go so far and say, yeah, you're going to be able to activate more biceps in your sets. And same thing with triceps, you know? If you can get a bit of a, you know, a bit of a closer connection with the fact that your tricep is what's pushing the weight down, and you're not just pushing it down, you're going to use less chest, you're going to use less shoulders, you're definitely going to get a better tricep pump. Yeah, it just fucking makes sense. So that's the plan for today. Be it heavier sets or lighter squeezing sets, slow, fast, you know, kind of whatever. I'm going to make sure that the intended targeted muscle is what is doing the majority of the work. And after not too many sets, you know, I'm talking 8-ish, maybe more, maybe less for tries, for buys. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen if you go into the gym after having taken pre-workout, drinking or having drank a good amount of water for the day with electrolytes, being well rested, and then you go to the gym and you do 8 hard sets for your triceps and your biceps of any kind, just 8 hard sets, 8 to 20 reps, maybe throw a superset in there for fun, just for do a drop set for kicks, you know, whatever. Do you really think you're not going to be pumped? It's almost out of the question, right? The real question is, how hard am I going to push it to make sure that I'm as pumped as possible? You know, that's more so what after you lift for a while, you get to a point where you're not concerned with making it to the gym. The gym being in your routine becomes unquestionable. That's just a part of your routine. That's like waking up. That's like going to bed. That's like brushing your teeth and having lunch. It's a part of your day-to-day routine. You don't even think about it. You're more so concerned with just how hard you can go when you do. So that's my little 2 cents there. But I'm not sure exactly what gym I want to go to. I guess we'll both find out in a few seconds. All right, a nice and cool 9 p.m. Perfectly reasonable hour to go head to a certain purple and yellow gym. And pretty much, you know, scientifically, in a bro sciencey kind of way, and with what I hope to be a solid amount of aggression, totally wreck my legs. And I'm not talking just my quads. I'm not talking just my hamstrings. I'm talking complete legs. You know what I have been? It's not. I won't even call it laziness. I've just been fucking forgetting, dude. You got your front leg. You got your back leg, of course, right? Quad, hamstring. I've totally been slacking on my adductors. You know, that kind of internal sort of that squeezing your leg together kind of machine, dude. That is gonna have fucking benefits for you. For one, that I can actually reference from my own fucking experience, is when I've got, let's just say, consistently trained adductors, I feel much more stable in a fucking squatting position. You know, if I haven't trained my adductors for a while, and then I go to squat extra heavy, I feel way wobblier side to side. Because I mean, that's what it is. It is kind of a stabilizing muscle. It's not going to be doing an insane amount of work unless you're doing sumo deadlifts, which, whatever, you know, I'm not really a deadlifts fan anyway, but they do act as a pretty strong stabilizer. And then in more of a visual fucking way, when your legs are extra kind of thick side to side, from the front, I mean, they're just going to look bigger. So what am I doing? I'm cheating myself out of leg size here. So I'm gonna add adductors in at the end, and then I've kind of been training calves. I mean, I'll be real. I've been training calves like a slacker. Like, my calves are fine, so I've kind of been hitting them in a just every couple days, do some calves at the end of the workout. No. I think I need to be a little bit more methodical. You know, when I'm walking around, or when I get to see these legit bodybuilders walking around with their 20, 21, 22-inch calves, however big they are, they're not just doing calves every so often when they feel like they're ready for it. No, man, calves are getting, leg day is finally becoming a true leg day again for me. So, the order of operations, as it were: hamstrings, quads, adductors, calves. That's what I'm thinking. That is most certainly what I'm thinking. And, you know, I've been doing, I think it's just because I like it. It does always give me a pretty solid pump, and I feel good from it. I've been doing a lot of seated calf work, like where you're seated on the calf machine and your legs are bent at 90 degrees. And I'm kind of, I forget the names of it, but the basic logic is, you know, you're going to get a bit more activation of that big meaty part on top doing, you know, straight leg calf-based movements. So instead of sitting there on the calf machine pumping out reps, which is all fine and good, I definitely like it, I've been doing that almost exclusively. I'm going to go back to doing some more straight leg kind of stuff. So I'll get into that later. But I came in kind of late, more like noonish, to do my cardio. It was fucking packed. Noon on a Monday. I'm sitting here like, what the hell's going on? Then I remembered, well, it's Memorial Day, but also everybody's out of school, man. And even if you're not, you know, even if you've still, I mean, if you're a goddamn grown-up, yeah, you got a full-time job. There's no summer per se, like when you're a kid. But even in summertime's always kind of chill, man. Everybody gets a bit more chill. You know, this isn't Q4. This isn't a high stakes period of time in the workforce in a sense. So if that's you, and you can notice you have just a little bit more time on your hands, even just a little, I think you got to use it in the gym, man. You know, I went on a pretty long rant about it, either last lift or the one after, or the one before that. But fuck, dude. I remember when I was younger, before I started working out, we would say, okay, this summer I'm going to start lifting. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to actually start working out. I'm going to start benching. Never happened. Now, eventually it did happen, but there was a period of time when we're like, dude, we're going to fucking get jacked this summer. We're going to lock it in. You know, you kind of have to have a little bit of a change, a little bit of an internal mental trigger where you actually pull it and launch yourself into motion, right? I'm talking, it's 5 a.m., your alarm just went off, you're laying down in bed, oh, I'm sleepy, oh, I'm cozy. That's your routine right now without the gym. Oh, this is what I'm used to. I've got enough free time to hang out and chill. This is very nice. This is very comfortable. Oh, it's comfy in here. You know, make like David Goggins, man. Make like Jocko Willink. Get up! Get up and move. But all right. I was gonna say some shit like I can't even remember. Let's just get started. All right, back for back, and I touch your calves as well. I need some calf stimulation every so often. I'm lucky enough that calves are not too far behind in terms of my lower body development, but I want my calves to be a touch freakier. Like, I want to get them, yeah. I want calves to be to the level where when I'm walking around in shorts, they're really fucking just jumping out at you. And unfortunately for most of us, You know, regardless of how comfortable it may be to believe that we live in a world where your calves will just grow on their own. Probably not. More than likely not. So throw your 6 or 5 or whatever amount of sets of calf raises at the end of your workout every time that your calves aren't sore, and you will not regret it. For a long time, I've kind of been into daily calf work to the point where I would finish every lift with like 5 or 6 sets of calves, and I mean, I can't speak against it. You know, that's kind of how I used to do it for fucking a couple years. Now I guess they're at a point where I'm not too upset with them, so I guess I've been slacking off. But no, if I had to give a general rule for most body parts, you know, when you train them in a kind of a progressive overload sort of style, like we're going to do with back, or, you know, what you do with legs and squats, and for those, I'd say you should hit everything about twice a week, or, you know, you should hit one muscle group and then not hit it for at least, 3-4 days ish, or 2-3 days, something like that. But calves are special, you know, calves are special. And as much as you believe it to be bro science from the 80s, guess what, man? You know, these fucking, what would we call them? Essentially the Knights of the Round Table in terms of muscle building. You know, I'm talking OG characters. They know what they're talking about, you know? So when you hear a Sean Ray and, you know, guys among that era talk about how, you know, calves are a stubborn muscle and you got to hit them more frequently than everything else, they didn't just pull that idea out of their fucking buttocks, man. You know, these are guys who seriously gave a shit about growing muscles, so they're gonna find every way to fucking do it possible. So about what I'm trying to say is calves can handle some frequent fucking work, because you gotta remember, I mean, your fucking calves are holding up your entire body weight constantly all fucking day without getting tired, or at least not so tired that you can't just keep walking. You know, the limiting factor of how far you can walk in a day is not your fucking calves, you know, giving out and becoming exhausted. It's just your whole body's level of exhaustion. So I don't think it's a bad idea to hit them much more frequently than everything else, to the point where if you do calves one day, you get a good calf pump and you hit them hard, and the next day when you go to the gym again, if they're not sore, I say do it again. I've kind of just been doing them every so often, but no, I gotta make sure I get them in at least a couple times a week. Actually practice what I preach with do them every time they're not sore. But that's mostly, that's mostly something that the guys who have calves that are not as big as they want them to be should be listening to. If your calves are big enough, yippee, good for you. You can kind of chill out. You don't have to camp out on the seated calf raise for 6 sets of single leg squeezing reps at the end of your workouts. But yeah, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to do a couple sets of calves. But actually getting more to the main part of the workout, back is back, man. It's not too complicated. I can foresee, I'm fucking using future vision here. There's gonna be some rows, possibly some hammer strength machine rows. There's gonna be some pull downs. There's gonna be some pullovers. There may be some other machine rows. And at the end of all of that, I can definitely see very clearly in my mind that there's gonna be a pretty good fucking back pump. When it comes to back training, I think you're fucking, let's just say you can navigate at your fucking discretion, because it's kind of hard to go wrong. Even if I was, like, if I had a fucking dice, like a 20-sided dice with, and every side of it was different. Like one side could say like heavy lat pull downs, a weight where you fail around 10 reps. And another side could say light pull downs, fail at 20 reps and squeeze each one for 1 second at the bottom. Or, do heavy rows here, or heavy pullovers here, or light pullovers here. If anybody makes a legit product like that, I'd like a shout out. Now that actually sounds kind of funny. But no, if I had a fucking dice or like a magic 8-ball that had a different back movement and basic style of the set, like row movement, light, heavy, squeezing, drop set. If I came into the gym today and I just rolled that every time I wanted to do a new set, and it had me do a completely crazy back day, I think that'd be fucking fine, man. I'd still hit my whole back, and I'd probably finish with a really good back pump.